In the Quantum Questions podcast today is on the subject of what is Tantra, Dispelling the Misconceptions. To explore this subject, Lucy Pattinson will be interviewing Advaitananda Stoian. Lucy is the co-founder of the Quantum Questions. She has also been a breath coach for over 30 years, leading seminars and running a private practice. Advaitananda Stoian is an educated scientist who worked in the Academy of Science, but he's also an advanced spiritual practitioner who's been teaching and practicing Tantra, yoga and meditation for the last 30 years. Advaitananda is a co-creator of the world's most comprehensive and in-depth esoteric Tantra course taught by certified teachers in more than 25 countries around the world.
Well, the listeners today of the Quantum Questions podcast are in for a real treat. We have Advaitananda Stoian, who will be answering questions to dispel all the misconceptions around the subject of what is Tantra. And there are many. I think really people put it on the level of voodoo. If you ask the average person on the street, it's like this small sect of people doing strange things that have absolutely nothing to do with normal life and would certainly not help with any daily problems in life. And I've worked with you for the last 3 years and have seen the absolute beauty and perfection of this path of Tantra. Yet somehow that's not being communicated. It's quite strange to me. I don't know how you would answer that, Ava.
It's a reoccurring problem, and you're right, Lucy. This path contains, in my opinion, today, from a public perspective, more misconceptions than truth, more misconceptions than reality. So it is, from that point of view, it's a secret path, but it's secret because it's constantly covered with all kind of dirt and projections from inside out, from inside people. And this happens not only now. Throughout the history of human spirit evolving, there are different stages that we can trace back when you study the tradition of Tantra. And periodically, the tantric path was covered with dirt, so to speak, was lost under the rubble of falling civilizations, because it is said, even in ancient texts of Tantra, that this is the path that is constantly emerging when the old ways are falling apart and there is an acute need to find new ways. And when such a need is present, the tantric path offers the primordial answers, gives, if you want, a primordial matrix. And then new ways are emerging. But under the rubble of the falling apart old systems, very often the tantric path is lost for a while and then is emerging in, you can say, from the dust there, and is offering very profound solutions. And that is because this, what we generally call Tantra, is a science of life. I'm a scientist myself, and I can tell you that I haven't found in many years, in decades of studying Tantra, practicing Tantra, and also following the scientific path, so to speak, I haven't found anything that fulfills so accurately all scientific principles, and in the same time is including much more than the official science today, is including all the aspects of human life. That's why my take about this system is that it is a science of life in the most pure sense of the word. But because it's so vast, because it's so comprehensive, it's very hard to get it. And then people take a slice of Tantra and they say, oh, Tantra is about sex. It's not about sex. Tantra is, among other things, clarifying intimacy, clarifying lots of aspects and mechanisms of human intimacy, which is something that is left out completely by traditional systems. Yeah. And because of that, is the projection from inside. Oh, something kinky, license for sex, as they say it. So in this way, if you put few candles and some incense in the room, you do tantra. Therefore, sex is not so bad or sinful anymore because you have some ideas behind it. That's not tantra. That's just a simulation of it. It's a projection of what we hope to obtain from it. So, but it is true. It's a fact that is dealing also with that chapter of life. It's just an example, one of probably the most known today about Tantra, or black magic, or magic generally. If you go in India, for instance, and you talk on the street with people about Tantra, this is the most frequent answer you get to the question, what do you think is Tantra? Oh, it's magic.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I had this experience in India firsthand, actually, literally firsthand, because being there was a rumor about me and Adina, me and my wife. We are practicing Tantra in our couple, and not only the erotic part, but generally speaking, both of us were teaching and practicing Tantra, but the rumor went before us that there is a tantric couple. And in India, Tantra is fascinating and also feared a lot because of the magic. And when I was shaking hands with people refused to touch us. And then they explained, oh, you're never touching a tantric magician. It's dangerous. It's like, come on. So, yeah, there are a lot of projections. Also because, among other systems, the tantric system is a system that accelerates evolution, is dealing with very strong forces. Unlike other systems that take you quite easy, but in a certain way, doesn't scare you so much, or doesn't scare the observer so much. The tantric system truly make results obvious. Yeah. And then, of course, it's very scary around when people don't understand what you're doing. When you, for instance, decondition yourself so spectacularly that the old you is almost gone, even physiologically. Yeah, for the people around, it's scary because they don't understand that. And without proper explanations, of course, it is enough to create a kind of public psychosis sometimes.
So you never see Tantra courses, well, except for yours, of course, that like a Tantra course about money, for example. It's always a Tantra course about sex. And I went on a couple in my 30s with my husband, and that's the only thing you will ever see a course about with Tantra.
Yes, because it's this mentality of selling the easiest, and by far the chapter from the tantric teachings, which is teachings about life. There is nothing in your daily life that you cannot find clarified, explained in depth in the tantric system. You can't find anything. And I challenge everyone, find something that you don't find it in the tantric system, place there a certain chapter or sub-chapter of the tantric system. So therefore, when you read through, of course, this is what stick out. Wow. Lovemaking positions. This is amazing. I mean, nobody talks about that. Not only they explain lovemaking positions, they explain even how you can have multiple orgasms as a man, as a woman, how you can have ecstatic states, in details. And then, of course, it's fascinating, that part. But no, it explains also the energy of money and how you can integrate success in life. They explain also how you can increase your willpower and becoming a true leader, not the leader which is using manipulative techniques to obtain attention, validation from the people that you are leading and so on, and ending up in all kinds of complications, but the true leader, harmonious leader. It explains, you name it, how you can become a genius if you aim for that and it's practiced correctly, and so on. So, but these kind of things, usually they are subjected to other kind of shortcuts. The reason why you find Tantra course equal sex, which, by the way, it's severe mistakes from the beginning, because one of the first things in Tantra they explain in intimacy is that sex is not good for you. There is another category of attitude and energy which is called eros, but that's another topic. So it's even the very title of it, this tantric sex or something, which doesn't fit with the original Tantra itself. But of course, the practices that you find there are covered by other shortcuts that people invented. Shortcuts, they're not very healthy, but at least they give you some results. So therefore, in terms of becoming successful, is much easier today to find a course where you improve your motivational system. Nobody tells you that the side effect of counting on motivational system is the destruction of your willpower. Nobody explains, because nobody understands in depth. But it's faster, it's true. Instead of obtaining a harmonious, integral success that is not depleting you from other kind of resources, but is keeping you in a state of balance and harmony, as Tantra is offering plenty of suggestions and practices, but they take more time. But from all the chapters, the one about intimacy is missing completely from other kind of attempts of shortcut. And therefore, they took it from there. So flipping through a tantric book, they said, oh, this chapter is covered by no one.
Except maybe don't do it at all.
Yeah, well, covered by a banner which says it's bad, it's a sin. So except that, of course, it's not there, it doesn't exist. So therefore they copy it. And of course, from the original text, it was also watered down a lot. I mean, you should see what they say originally about these aspects of intimacy. And then people water it down, they transform it into a weekend event, and not even a weekend. It's actually, you go there and the whole weekend you talk about all kind of nonsense and few tips and tricks that come originally from Tantra. It's practically the same proportion as people say, I had a one-night standing, and in reality they have a 10-minute standing and a one-night sleeping after 10 minutes standing, let's be honest. But they abusively say, I have a one-night standing. You wish it was a one-night standing. If you learn some tantric techniques, you might reach to a one-night standing. It's the same with, they say, we have a tantric weekend. Yeah. Out of which it's 15 minutes purely rooted in the science of life, and the rest adaptations, all kinds of speculations and so on. So that's how we end up here with this extraordinary precious science of life, which practically was for now buried under the rubble of all kinds of self-invented methods. But it's coming out, I have to say. That's why our course, surprisingly, even though it's academic level course, is now spreading. I think it reached 30 countries almost now. And with almost no advertising, classes are always full.
I wanted to ask you about that, Ava. So that's a 4-year course, is it? Or
Well,
2 years? I mean,
we reached, the curriculum have reached already the 13th year, but yes,
let's
I don't
not
want to
scare
discourage.
people too much,
Let's
but-
not just, yeah, I know that everybody says, shh, don't say these numbers, just be nice, say 3 years course. So
But what I'm really interested in, what do you talk about on the very first lesson? Where do you even begin with Tantra? What is the first day?
first day. Well, you have to start somewhere, but it's exactly like you are trying to build a puzzle, and then you know how is building a puzzle. There is not a precise order, of course. The curriculum of the course, of course, it is precise because it has to be the same everywhere. Every teacher is teaching based on the same program and the same very rigorously structured program. We start from understanding more about yourself, because before you are able to interact with the world, before you are able to be a harmonious part of this world and make the best out of your life, because this is what Tantra teaches you, to enhance your life to its maximum. Before that, you need to know yourself, because the tantric science is based on a very simple observation, if you want. The universe is not a random event. The universe is created by an extraordinary intelligence, consciousness. Yeah, this is a kind of an axiomatic basis of Tantra. And for this reason, once you live your life to its maximum potential, you also evolve to maximum efficiency. So it's very simple. You live your life full of inhibitions, Tantra says, you learn the slowest. The more you remove inhibitions and live your life fully, and interestingly, that's also more fulfilling. Yeah? You live your life fully, but that is not as easy as it sounds. Everybody says, oh, yes, I want to live intensely. That would take some skills and training. You will be surprised. But you can reach there. To live a life fully, in full potential, so to speak, surprisingly, you realize that actually you evolve, you transform yourself and your environment the best. So this is one of the reasons why in the tantric system, you learn to add to life, not to forbid anything to your life. You learn to redirect instead of block. You learn to control instead of suppress. Most of our life today is based on suppression, forbidding, cutting off things, and so on. You see, all the debates today in the society is an enormous field of cutting things out, canceling things, all this frenzy that it is an expression of what? Of fear. Fear, inhibition. When people are afraid of being triggered, by the way, it's because they don't realize a simple fact. The triggers are inside of you. You cannot cure the world from triggers, but you can cure the triggers from you. And therefore, nothing in the world can trigger you in any way. So actually, this is the amazing aspect of the tantric teaching. The tantric teaching is going after the triggers, analogically speaking. It's helping you to become yourself in your most fabulous, God-given potential, if you want. And in this way, life is amazing, is extraordinary. We're designed for happiness. And you discover that. You don't need a doctrine to tell you.
So when I've been learning with you, I mean, for me, it's quite jaw-droppingly beautiful. And I just think, why did I not know this so long ago? And for it to be so powerful and applicable, why does it keep going under the rubble all the time, like you say? Well, why didn't I learn about this 30 years ago? I'd love to have done.
This is one of the questions we receive the most. Why was not this taught in my high school? Why was not taught this by my parents? Well, that's a question which, unfortunately, we don't have now time to answer. Briefly, we can say it's a reoccurring pattern. It's waves of human consciousness evolving, falling into another level of illusion, if you want, and then waking up from its own self-inflicted dream again and again. But every time we wake up, we learn something more. And I'm not talking one person, I'm talking humanity in itself. So yes, it sometimes hide this path because we're not ready for it. Look what happens when you try to explain your friends. Look, I'm trying to learn about myself in these ways, including, for instance, intimacy, the way I enjoy life. They get first scared before even. Yeah, exactly. They try to protect. What are you trying to protect? You embrace all kind of nonsense. You swallow all the garbage that you hear, completely not scientific, completely unchecked from the environment around. But when somebody comes and says something that can lead you to what? To ecstasy, to sustainable happiness in a relationship, to orgasmic states that can last truly the whole night, you say, oh, this is strange. Yes, of course you say that. Why? Because there is something inside of you that blocked out happiness long ago. And of course you are afraid of such display. You're scared of such display. You try to push it away. And how do you push it away? Of course, you will not, very rarely, you will say, I think I have severe inhibitions, Lucy, so please don't mention these things to me because I am a person with inner blockages and so on. Of course, if you would say that, you are actually remove yourself from that picture already, from that picture of sufferance. So problem is solved by saying it. But normally we are dominated by what we don't admit or we don't see about ourselves. And that's why we carry this kind of sadness, unhappiness, blockages, misconceptions inside of us. And we adapt. We have a life today adapted to ignorance. So in other words, it's exactly like you have a small stone in your shoe, and for a while you walk well. Then your walk is very hard because the stone is hurting you. And then you start to walk in a crooked way. And after a while, the wound that you have in your feet starts to heal around the rock. And after a while, you're limping. And that's how we are going. And imagine that after a while, everybody is limping. And it's kind of normal. And when you start to walk straight, people are triggered. Like, what do you try to prove? What do you think? You're smarter than me or what? Why are you walking like that? Well, that's actually the original walk. And if you stop and take out the stone from the shoe, after a few days, you'll discover the biped straight walking just like me. So it is like that, but of course, it's hard to believe. Just as you say, like people are saying, come on, really? Is that simple? In a way, simple. And it's so amazingly transforming. Yes, it is. It is that amazing, and it is that effective, and it is that available. Well, not that available. I have to say, my teacher, as you know, he was imprisoned for exactly because of these concepts. He triggered the society around him like we haven't seen for quite some centuries, I would dare to say. Yeah. And even today, he is in kind of, under attention and so on. For what reason? Because he speaks about these things. Because it's triggering. Yes, I know. It's revolutionary because you see the problem is adapted life to ignorance is also very comfortable for a lot of compromises that we have today in our life. And well, when you are starting this path, you start to transform everything, including, for instance, the fact that you see things for what they are and you speak. Because you're not anymore a sheep. You outgrew the sheep phase. And then, the others are disturbed. Like, hey, what are you doing here? Shut up. It makes me sad when you tell them, that your life can be much better. You built your own success. No, it's just my luck. Sure.
You don't have to answer this, Eva, but I'm just curious, what do you think is the most disturbing thing that your teacher said or would say that has caused authorities to get scared, I suppose?
Well, I can answer this because I've been sometimes many times in the front line of this fight, so to speak. And I can tell you that in essence, what is the most disturbing thing he said is that you personally are responsible for everything that happens to yourself. So stand up and take your life back. But this is propaganda. So again, that was not the danger. I heard it from the mouth of the people who were attacking him. I heard it. They said, it's not about what he's saying. There are a lot of gurus and all kinds of people today who say these things. The problem is he is giving methods that you can truly stand up. Otherwise, it's like you go in a hospital with people in wheelchairs and you tell them, you can stand up, you can do whatever you want and so on. And people are saying, they even applaud. They say, nice speech. Thank you very much for the pep talk. But honestly, I can't stand up. But then somebody comes and says, no, I know you cannot in your condition, but I can teach you how to reach to a condition where you stand up. And therefore, all the people who push the wheelchair, who benefit from your wheelchair situation and so on, they are in trouble. And they are the ones who try to silence you. They are the ones who say, no, shut up. This is the essence of what he did. He systematized, he was attacked by the church as well as by the yogis in India. Why do you think it is like that? It's very simple. He offered 3 years curriculum for free to everyone who wants to learn these things for free. Right? This is unprecedented. And in those 3 years curriculum, you have a structure so efficiently built, not only that you obtain fabulous results, but it can be taught all over the world. And it's covering more than the sum of all the teachings that the others can possibly teach in the 40, 50 years of their career. And I'm not joking, I can demonstrate it to you. He wrote up to date over 3,000 courses. You know, it's like 7, we calculated 7 faculties worth of curriculum together, put together.
And not finished yet.
And it's still rolling, it's still in full swing, yeah? The Tantra course already have more than 1,200 distinct courses. These numbers are not even making sense for people. They say like, what do you mean? They can't even comprehend. Well, look inside of you. Do you think you can describe yourself in 3 pages? I mean, that's how naive you are. You have a cluster of billions upon billions of cells, perfectly synchronized. I'm talking only the physical body, perfectly synchronized with consciousness, with attitudes, with emotions and everything, forming organs, working together for years after years and after years in performing extremely complex. And you want to learn about that in a weekend? So, or in 5 pages or in 10 pages, 5 courses, not possible. But it's not about learning. It's not an intellectual approach. It's as you saw, it's a practical approach. And that was it was dangerous for him. I mean, not for him. What was dangerous in what he is, that he put forward something that works. It's extremely systematic and easily reproducible because it's very well systematized. It's not based on some speeches given, motivational speeches, charisma-based things. No, like we're teaching now, as you know, we have a program of Tantra teacher training that is worldwide and is 4 years of training, intensive training, but these teachers are extremely well prepared. In themselves, they have great results. Outside, their students start to have great results. As I said, they don't even have to do advertising. Classes are full by default. Yeah. So, and that is disturbing because these people cannot be fooled by a masquerade. They cannot be fooled by the fear-inducing propaganda that we see today in the world. Not that they are some anarchists or something. No, they are all kinds of walks of life. They are all genders, because there are 2 genders, by the way. That's they are all kind of people in these classes. And the interesting fact is their common denominator is themselves. The human being is the common denominator of Tantra. Beyond race, gender, beyond social position of anything. Tantra is beyond all that, because it's the basics of life, the principles and mechanisms of your consciousness. Where can you go beyond that? So
I'm just curious, Ava, would you say that Tantra is basically yoga with the intimate side added in?
Well, actually, this is another misconception. Yoga is derived from the ancient tantric texts. It's not the other way around. The ancient texts were this life philosophy and science merged together. But then people started to take chapters of Tantra. Some took chapters of Tantra, made Kama Sutra. Some took chapters of Tantra, made yoga with the Ashtanga with 8 limbs and so on. So the development is the other way around. When you start to particularize the science of life itself, you obtain all kinds of systems. Some even made it smaller, and they did the breath work, for instance, which nowadays, and you know it very well because you are a trainer in that, and you know it very well. It originated from the ancient teachings and practices of pranayama, But pranayama itself, even the concept of prana, was developed in this science of life, because prana is the energy of life. So it came the other way around, and that's the reason why nowadays, of course, we know much more yoga. Tantra is kind of a weird, very hard to define concept, and therefore they say Tantra is a kind of yoga with intimacy. They say yoga with sex, but as I explained, doesn't even make sense to attach anything in Tantra with sex. So they just put the terms like this. It's the other way around. If you want to go, let's say, at the cause, I would suggest better go to the practice than to the cause. To people, because very often people ask, but I would like to know which current of Tantra, listen, it's life. If you start to speak about Tantra like that, it's like you are asking a person which kind of life you have. It's life, for God's sake. It's not a kind of.
Well, you are this tremendous inspiration, and I've met many of the teachers from your school, and you can just see how joyful everyone seems to be. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that's, well, obviously very inspiring, and you just want to know how you become so joyful. It's beautiful.
No, there are two strategies here. I'm very happy you approach that, Lucy, because there are two strategies here. You can be joyful like an American car salesman. I have that as a standard. These guys are like, yes, and this car is like, and you find a flaw there, but look, the door doesn't work. Yes, and it's exactly fitting your needs. And these are like, you will never put that person down. So is this happiness or joyfulness that is fabricated? That is kind of extreme, of course. But to certain degrees, we are programmed in the society today. There are even courses, motivational courses to bring back the joy in your life. And then practically you are creating kind of short feedback loops inside of yourself to shortcut the layers after layers of unhappiness, failures, and all kinds of things. So practically is how we invented perfumes. You know how French people invented perfumes.
Yeah, I did know that actually.
Yeah.
But you can say it in case someone doesn't.
Yeah. So they stink under especially the nobility in French. They have these huge what do you call them? Wigs. Yeah, they have these huge wigs. Yeah, and they couldn't every day do washing and so on. So they were even having bugs there and all kind of stuff, and started to smell. And therefore they invented perfume. And actually this concept itself is what we're doing today. Instead of cleaning the smelly wound, we put perfume on it. Hey, Now it's okay, isn't it? Does it feel good? Does it smell good? Yeah, it's true. Wow. What did you do? Magic. That's my thing. You know, it's the equivalent of putting perfume on a smelly, rotten wound. So that's the kind of happiness that is promoted today. Now, Tantra comes with a completely revolutionary approach. They say, clean the wound, because your flesh, analogically, I'm talking analogically, but also physiologically, as I noticed, your flesh smells good inherently. It's just that it's rotten because you don't use it, because you misuse it, because you misunderstand it, because you hate yourself. Because all these reasons, you start to stink. So don't put perfume there. Try to clean. Yeah. And of course, it's just a statement. Your inborn state is ecstatic happiness. Behind every layer of your personality is a layer which in the ancient time it was called in Sanskrit Ananda, which is in translation ecstatic unconditional happiness or ecstasy. Yeah. So it is said, and then everybody can check for themselves, that the core of your being is a layer of ecstatic happiness, unconditional. It's from within. It's not like, yeah, but I have no reason. You don't need a reason to be happy. That's the amazing thing. But of course, we lost track of all this, and we have learned the other way around. We condition ourselves. And Tantra is saying it's much shorter and sustainable. I want to underline on that, sustainable, to remove the causes, to remove the illusion that your happiness is conditioned by something. No, actually, your happiness came first. And then you did things that make you apparently happy or apparently unhappy. No, it was all coming from a spring of unconditional happiness. So that's why you see these people like in average happier than normal. But what is very special is that kind of happiness is sustainable. Because you see, when you are having a conditional happiness, because you create a program that is stronger than your previous condition of unhappiness, you always need very, very well-defined conditions. It is enough that something happens and take you out of the little frame, little box that you define there, and it seems relatively happy or exceptional or successful and so on. It takes a little bit, just a glitch in the matrix, and you're out, you're unhappy, you scream, and so on. And we've seen that. Of course, it's good for business, for the people who provide you with that small box, because you go back and you ask for more. You say, something happened. Oh, but I have another one. Let's build another one. Let me help you again. It is true, what we offer, people never come back. But they continue. That's the difference. They continue because they say, whoa, you cannot leave me like that. I'm just getting started. I love it. I want to know more about these possibilities. Sure, that's it. It's you, after all, the object of study. So nobody kick you out from yourself, except you. You can kick yourself out from your own life as people leave. So that's why that kind of happiness is a sustainable happiness. It's much more. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not yet perfect, because it's up to you to reach that kind of perfection, but it is quite sustainable.
Amazing.
Yes.
I did want to go back, Ava, to the subject of intimacy, if we can, because
we can.
It's such an enormous hidden area where, I mean, so many men are watching porn, maybe not just men. No one talks about intimacy. I come across so many people I work with who have zero intimacy for many years, many, many years. And it's just such a mess. And Tantra seems to have an answer for this.
It does, yes. Well, it's the situation is, as I said, the result of us ignoring these things. Also because you see, intimacy has power. Intimacy was used by leaders in the past and in the present, is used as a source of psychomental power. So there are magic rituals that are used in circles of power even today that are using intimacy, the lovemaking. Yeah. So, and this was noticed by people. You can be terribly disturbed. Like, for instance, you are an aspirant who wants to every day pray, meditate, but then you have sexual thoughts. What to do with that? I mean, people noticed it's such a power. But the tantric system, before all the prayer and meditation appeared even, they explained this is a huge power of life. You need to contain it. If you don't contain it, it will dominate you sooner or later. Practically, you'll spend your life, instead of meditating, wrestling with all kinds of instincts. Now, of course, interestingly, we do have today this kind of attitude in terms of the forces of nature. You see, before 200 years ago, you don't build villages where near waters, near rivers that were constantly flooding. It was a fact. In areas where the floods were frequent, people wouldn't build wouldn't build houses for a simple reason. You might die periodically. And it's not nice to die periodically when you don't believe in reincarnation. So for this reason, they avoid that. But nowadays, well, it's no problem. You build houses next to the mountain where the rivers were coming down. Why? Because you put a dam, and then you put some turbines, and all that stihinic power of nature is now used even to feed with electricity the villages down the river, down the destructive river. Yeah. So what I'm saying, that kind of mentality we do have today. We understood it in small, and we understood that in regard to exterior world, but still we have a problem to see it inside. Yes, the creative power of life, which manifests inside of the human being as sexual instinct, is one of its manifestations, is extremely powerful. It's super powerful. And because we don't know how to tame, people just put a ban there. So just don't think about it. Don't come near, because you might be taken by the flood. Yeah. Well, even before that, the tantric system even drew the dam and the turbines and everything. Actually, they didn't draw it. They actually describe how we have it. We have it inside. We have an entire energetics inside that works like turbines that can be activated and can spin with what? With the overflow that otherwise will kill you. It's the same energy. So they came with that observation. Actually, is one of the points that me working in as a student when I started this path in first years in university, studying energetics, and I was studying them quantum mechanics and all this related to energy. I was shocked. How did we not figure out this one earlier? Like why aren't we not using it? Because it was so clearly explained. It's like, come on, it's amazing. I wanted to try it. Is it even possible? I mean, these people took some hallucinogenic mushrooms when they wrote these texts, or it's real. And I checked, and it's real. It is the same instinct that can destroy you in the sense of giving you addiction, the likes of which makes the drugs pale. Sexual addiction is like super powerful. It disturbs us. It makes us take decisions. You can lose presidency, by the way, because of this sexual power, isn't it? Because Oval Office or a bush in the park, you have absolutely no power apparently over that. But no, it's not true. With the right education, with the right methodology, you can take that power, you can reuse that power. And we are actually designed for that. This is the joke, that we are we are designed that the energy of life that is making us breathing, that is giving us impulses for all the billions of neural connections which make this dialogue possible and intelligible by the listener, and so on, all that is rooted in what the tantrics were calling thousands of years ago, the creative power of life. And they say, look, that creative power either take a kind of a lateral path and transform into sexual impulse, super powerful, stay away from it, says the different religions, because we saw the effect and it's devastating. Or it takes an ascending path, which is totally different than the sexual instinct. They even call it differently in the ancient time. They call it eros or kama in the Eastern tradition, which is completely different than sex, but is dealing, among other things, with a kind of intimacy that indeed is not the sexual intimacy that people see today, instinctive, pornographic, very blinding in a certain way. On the contrary, it's a kind of an elevated, hyper-lucid, but in the same time, extraordinarily intense form of intimacy. So, yeah, that's the difference. And that's why intimacy in Tantra is the way you can get taming that power. Otherwise, that power is lost. It's left unattended, if you want.
Thank you.
Well, it's a very long chapter, this one, of course. As
I'll have you back, Abba, for maybe on that.
If you dare to make a podcast on eroticism.
Maybe.
I'm planning to make, together with Adina, with my wife, I'm planning to start a series, a podcast dedicated to eroticism. Yeah. Well, probably it will address mostly our students worldwide, which are in the Tantra classes, because they are the ones who dare already. But slowly, I'm sure that people will start to pay attention. They will start to realize, wait a second, actually, I'm given those things in my pants for a much higher reason that I think of. And I'm not talking about mobile phone.
Several. I want to know what you would say to people listening, and there will be a large percentage who are just tired, they're a bit jaded. What can they do right now to potentially start the path of Tantra? Because I know you will have inspired people through what you've been saying. What are the first steps they can do?
Sign up for the Tantra class in your city. Of course, no.
Well, there are some online as well, aren't there? I mean, it's not just...
Yeah, there is online class now with great teachers, I would say. But no, apart from that, before you start anything, the tantric path, there is even a principle, a spiritual principle, which says like this: this path begins where you are. Now it sounds silly, childish almost, that statement, but it's actually extremely profound. Very often we think about ourselves in terms that are completely inaccurate. We are either minimizing, maximizing, exaggerating, inhibiting ourselves. Practically, we are so far away from where we truly are in life. So to start the path of Tantra, you just need to know yourself, to see what are your aspirations. Put a little bit of light inside, not outside. That's why you heard me even publicly speaking about this. And sometimes people say, okay, but give me something practical. More practical than look inside, honestly. It's the first gesture of practice. When you do yoga, for instance, the slightest exercise is take that position, which is not very complicated, and now pay attention to yourself, to what you feel in that position. And if you learn even more these postures, you know that position corresponds to that chakra, to that kind of energy, to that kind of effect. So paying attention to all those things, which means seeing yourself and all the effects of that asana, you have tremendous transforming impact of that practice. Well, this is how it starts. The same with intimacy. You see, people are tired, people are bored, people have all kinds of desires. They are fighting inside because they have contradictory desires. They want to stay silent, but they want to go out. They would like to have intimacy, but they are so afraid of saying hello to their beautiful neighbor or something. So all these are effects of total oblivion about the most important person in your life, you. So it's a first element, and I'm not talking here about narcissism or egoism. Egoism is a form of extremely pervert ignorance about yourself. Not only you ignore yourself, but you also try to impose to the others your ignorance about yourself. That's egoism. No? So that's why it's a first step. Also, dedicate yourself to love. Love. You know, it's one of the chapters in Tantra that is even today ignored. Tantra talks about love in many terms, in many ways. In my opinion, this is the most important, not the intimacy part. Intimacy part is a subchapter, an appendix to the enormous chapter of love. And actually, the first book we published from my teacher years ago, which had the launch in London, was called The Tantric Path of Love. Not the Tantric Path of Lovemaking. It was the Tantric Path of Love, because it is kind of the backbone. Today, we ignore almost completely this amazing capacity to love, to be in love, to manifest our love, to not necessarily this engaging love, binding love. This is not, people are afraid of the consequences. What if I say I love you, there will be consequences. The only consequences will be you are happy. That's the consequence. The fact that we attach it to all kinds of strange things is due to ignorance, because we have a glimpse of love and then we put on top of it sex, marriage, all kinds of things. Hey, stop it. Just feel the love, manifest the love, remain like that for a while, and then you will see for yourself. You will already have other perspective, aspiration to know more about yourself, the universe around you, and so on. So it's like life comes back. When love is there, life is back in yourself. So yeah, that I would say, start with something that you love or you remember that you love very much. Stay with that feeling, unflinching, not doing anything, just love. Immerse yourself into that feeling periodically, 15 minutes per day, and I guarantee in few days, you'll notice looking back, interestingly, my general state is shifting. Of course it's shifting. This is a huge power that we have, and it's totally ignored. Much more than the intimacy, I would say, because you don't have courses about love today. You have courses about sex, tantric sex, all these things. So it got the attention of public, but love, where did you see a course on love? Who is going to a course where let's learn how to love? But what do you mean? Of course I know, I'm an expert. Sure. That's how an expert of love in love looks like. That kind of attitudes, pessimistic, having all kind of problems, inhibitions. No. How does it feel when you are in love? I mean, the world is small compared with your heart in that moment, isn't it? You can fly, you have confidence. Everything is back in its original package inside of you. Yeah, that's the regenerative power of love. So that's what I would say to anyone who wants to start. Can I start? Yes, start with your heart.
Brilliant. So you start with self-reflection, then you
Yes.
start with love, and then if you want to go to any of your courses,
Go to courses, yes, educate, because you see, if the heart is on, you will start to search. I guarantee. I haven't seen a person whose heart started again to love, and life is back, and then they will still stay there bored and saying, "Nah, I have enough." No, honestly, I've seen people of old age, at least so they thought before, coming back and saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm like a teenager." Of course, you're like a teenager. You are a teenager. Anyway, you haven't lived much before. So today people live life like they are saving for afterlife. This is how they live, with so much inhibition. Like it's like what you're trying to do, saving for afterlife. You save for your children as if you can leave something to your children. I mean, you can save money for your children, but life, if it will work, I would understand. No, I'm saving because I have some very nice children. I want to put aside some life for them. But what are you putting? What are you saving for? If you can put orgasms in the bank, saving them, I would understand. But you can't. So why not having them?
Well, thank you very much, Eva. And we'll put the link in the description of this podcast if anyone wants to follow up on any of your courses. And it's been a real delight having you on. And
thank you for doing this.
Love many more with you.
If you'd like to know more about the quantum questions, please go to the website www.thequantumquestions.com.